From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Today we finish our three-part series on body-worn cameras on officers in Montana, talking with the Montana Racial Equity Project. I'm Gabby Crevitt, and I'll have that full story coming up.
Some faculty and staff here at Montana Tech in Butte are concerned about intimidation and even possible violence with a conservative group organizing here. I'll tell you about it coming up.
It is 6:30 on this Wednesday. Chet Lehman, Holly Brantley, Matt Elwell with you here. And there is no joke about this weather that we're talking about, Matt. No. It is dangerous on so many levels, not just personally, but property damage possible, all of those kind of things.
That's right. And it's calving season, lambing season. That's always an issue. Your pet's outside, not a good idea. Right. It's brutal outside this morning. And I had an interesting, we showed that picture here just a second ago off of our iCam. I want to talk a little bit about that here coming up in a second. Here's a look at temperatures across the area. Right now we're seeing teens below zero, that cold, dense air falling into the valleys of southwest Montana. That can be an issue for air quality. You see, and I of course did that, there's kind of a line of that cloud cover up there. That's that batch of cold air, and that is trapping some of the air, the nasty air, some of the pollution into the valley. So air quality could be an issue as we wrap up our week as that cold air continues to roll back through here. Again, cold temperatures today. We'll talk more about what you can expect through the rest of the week coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, the Livingston man who was arrested after an armed standoff earlier this month made his initial appearance in court Monday. Yeah, according to court documents, Michael Marfuda charged with attempted homicide, criminal endangerment, and deliberate homicide in Justice Court in Livingston. Marfuda arrested after an armed standoff at the View Vista Trailer Court came to an end around 10 o'clock last Wednesday evening. Marfuda's bond set at $500,000. Now, according to the Gallatin County Detention Facility roster, Marfuda remains behind bars in Bozeman. Marfuda was wounded after Park County Sheriff Brad Bickler says he opened fire on law enforcement several times. Marfuda sustained non-life-threatening injuries when officers fired back. Well, a search is underway in Toole County for two missing fishermen from Missoula County. According to the Toole County Sheriff's Office, the men were reported missing Monday. They were camping on the north side of the Marias River, but left to visit another camp on the other side of the river west of South Bootlegger Campground. A third fisherman went to look for them following their tracks to the open water. Multiple agencies from Toole and Cascade County, as well as Malmstrom Air Force Base, are searching for the two men. Closer to home, a hiker on the M Trail in Bozeman is okay after being rescued Monday evening. Happened when darkness set in and the hiker became disoriented. Now, part of the confusion stemmed from the Bridger Foothills fire, which destroyed some familiar landmarks. Hiker was able to call 911 and provide accurate coordinates. Now, it was below zero with a wind chill well below that, but the hiker was dressed properly. A team, along with search dogs, started out, was soon joined by another team. Rescuers found the hiker, who was able to walk out with all of them. And other headlines in part 3 of our coverage about body cameras on law enforcement officers in Montana. The Montana Racial Equity Project gives us its stance on the emerging technology. MTN's Gabby Crevitt spoke with the executive director to find out what it could mean for officers and for residents who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Judith Heilman is a Black woman living in Montana who not only has experience living and working in racial equity and justice, but also has a law enforcement background. And she tells me the Montana Racial Equity Project not only supports body-worn cameras on officers, she tells me the organization supports them overwhelmingly. For the Montana Racial Equity Project, officer-worn body cams line up with the organization's goals of promoting and creating opportunities for equity and justice. As for the law enforcement officers, Heilman says they help with accountability. And for citizens,
it's a thing for them to be able to say if they felt like there was something that they were handcuffed inappropriately, that they shouldn't have been handcuffed, that they were detained inappropriately, that they were asked inappropriate questions, then it's on the body cam footage as well.
Heilman acknowledges the high cost of the technology and the in-depth policy work required to run a body cam program, but says the expense is worth every penny, which is why the widespread messaging of defund the police doesn't line up with the organization's values.
First off, I'd love to find another term other than defund the police. If it was something that just basically reallocate some police funds or something like that, that would be really, really wonderful.
For example, calls related to mental health, homelessness, substance abuse, and poverty-related issues might be better off directed to other professionals, freeing up some funds for body cams.
So it's a process. It's not anything that can happen right away. You have to gradually work towards this. You can't just flip a switch and say, okay, we're going to take away funding for half of your officers. That's ridiculous. But you can start chipping away at it.
Heilman says the Montana Racial Equity Project is ready and eager to be part of Bozeman's community engagement project about body cams, and says the agency should consider the next step forward as well.
I saw the interview that you did with the person from Belgrade Police Department. I really like the idea of cameras on weapons, on the firearms. I really do.
Reporting in Bozeman, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
Meantime, Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen is among 14 attorney generals from across the country calling on President Biden to reconsider his decision to revoke the Keystone XL pipeline's presidential permit.
The AG's letter claims canceling the pipeline will cost thousands of jobs and cause lost economic activity and opportunity. Now in Montana, Knudsen writes, quote, killing Keystone XL will likely cost the state approximately $58 million in annual tax revenue, end quote. Now some of the counties stand to lose their biggest property taxpayer, especially devastating, Knudsen points out, as 5 of the 6 impacted counties are designated high poverty areas.
The Keystone XL pipeline route would run some 285 miles, crossing through 6 counties. If completed, the pipeline would carry up to 830,000 barrels of oil per day from Alberta to Nebraska, then eventually on to the Gulf Coast refineries.
Now that letter also advises the president that the states are reviewing all available legal options to protect their citizens and interests. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, the new chairman of the Senate Energy Committee, is also asking President Biden to reconsider.
Now to Butte, some faculty at Montana Tech are sending a resolution to the Faculty Senate expressing concerns of intimidation and even personal safety.
It's over a national student club that is starting a chapter on the Butte campus. MTN's John Amy explains why the professors are so concerned.
Some faculty and staff at Montana Tech in Butte are making claims that the recent approval of a conservative student group called Turning Point USA could lead to intimidation and even threats against professors and others on the campus.
This group is known for affiliating with racist and neo-Nazi and other alt-right groups.
Turning Point USA's website says it promotes principles of limited government, capitalism, and freedom on campuses. However, some Montana Tech staff says it intimidates liberal professors by putting them on a national watch list.
Professors who have been put on that list have been subject to harassment, even to death threats.
The faculty members claim they're not against students or clubs that have conservative political views.
We don't want to suppress free speech. We don't want to in any way try to tell students what clubs they can or can't have, but we do want to promote awareness that this is a very dangerous road to go down, that when we start putting politics above truth.
And some faculty are concerned about the state's proposal to allow firearms on campus, which they believe could compound the problem.
Saying that people can bring guns to college campuses, I think that's extremely dangerous. And I think people are going to die. I really feel people are going to die as a result of this.
Those that support the legislation believe that having guns on campus will better protect people if violence should break out. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
Now, MTN left messages for Turning Point USA on its Facebook page and website seeking comment on this story. So far, we have not heard back from that organization.
Well, there's a new nonstop service from Bozeman to 3 destinations this summer coming from Allegiant Airlines. Airport Director Brian Springer says that twice a week you'll be able to go to San Diego or Oakland or California. That sounds pretty good right now. And Austin, Texas. There are introductory low fares. Check out our websites to see how much it could cost you when the service starts in May and June.
San Diego sounds better than Oakland.
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I totally agree with you.
Good stuff. Continuing to expand even in the pandemic.
Yeah.
At our busy airport, the
Very
state's
cool.
busiest.
Nice.
Yeah.
You need to get in on that. Well, coming up here, if your boss gave you paid time off to get a COVID vaccination, would you be more likely to get one as soon as you can? After the break, find out workers around the country are saying about that.
But first, here's Tony DeCoppel with a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, hear what former President Trump has to say about his impeachment trial. Plus, only on CBS This Morning, Aaliyah Taylor opens up about the night she says her ex-boyfriend, former NFL player Chad Wheeler, assaulted her. Why she's speaking out now and what she hopes others can learn from her experience. Also, CBS News has learned new details of the Biden administration's plan to reopen schools. See what the new guidance will focus on. Plus, why teachers in one city say they are still not feeling safe enough to return to school in person. And Sarah Thomas made history as the first woman to officiate a Super Bowl game. Talk with her about continuing to break barriers in the male-dominated sport. All that at 7.